It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Tsh. Da 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 da. Di da di di da di di da 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 da. Di da di li da di li di da. Di da di li di da di li 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 da di da di da di di da.
Hello everyone, and welcome to whatever this is. I guess this is an update video. I'll just call it an update video. Probably a very, very long-awaited and long-desired update video for some of y'all. This is going to be interesting. I have a huge-ass notepad document right here in front of me that I typed out with some random thoughts that I've wanted to talk about for a while now. But, you know, sometimes it takes time to really formulate thoughts or even really know how you feel about an experience until you get some distance from it and can really, you know, think about it when you're more disattached from it and from when it happened and you're not really caught up in the moment. You have some, you know, time to linger on those thoughts and really formulate what your opinion is. So what I want to do is there's a few things I want to do. I know that there's kind of a weird split in my channel now, I feel, between the people who, like, joined me, like, it's almost actually like half and half of like subscribers I got who like joined me around the time I was still like constantly making Megaten stuff, and then the people after the fact who joined because they saw they saw my body of Megaten work, or you know, a lot of people jumped on from my Drakengard Let's Play, or just from like random, like there's actually like a lot of people who like sub to me from those like random JoJo reviews I did, which I find hilarious because I like don't really make those anymore. So yeah, sorry to those people. You don't have to stick around if you don't want to. No, but yeah, I thought what I should do is I should start by giving a oral history of my involvement with the SMT online community and making Megami Tensei content. All the way from the very beginnings, why I decided to do it, and also why I decided to stop. And kind of why I'm feeling up to making more of it again. Don't get your hopes up for those of you who think it's going to be like back to the way things were, where it's like I'm kind of like a dedicated SMT channel, because I don't have interest in doing that. I just have interest in making SMT content stuff again alongside the other stuff I make. But we'll get into all of that in due time, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about. And honestly, too, I just want to address a lot of things I've been asked just a lot throughout the years, and I just want to have addressed in a video, because I thought that'd be helpful for people to have, and also clear up some weird, like, rumors and just stuff I randomly stumble across sometimes in conversations that I'm like, I don't know how the hell that happened, but, you know, whatever. It's the internet, it's to be expected. So I guess let's get into the oral history part. This is going to be a very, very oral history. My mouth is so ready for this. So the history of me making SMT content and really getting involved with the SMT community it really starts with me making this channel, even if it's not necessarily one-to-one related. I made this channel. This is actually my second YouTube channel, fun fact. I had a previous YouTube channel, which was a clusterfuck, and was me as like a weird 14-year-old making really stupid videos that, ooh, they're just bad. Luckily, I still had the login information, and like years back, I went and deleted all that shit before anyone could ever find that again. Thank Christ. Oh, God. But yeah, this was like a relaunch attempt where I'm like, I'm gonna make like video reviews and do fun, cool things, yay. And I really didn't plan on just making Megami Tensei content. People who are from way back in the day, like I'm talking the initial 200, may remember some of the other videos I had on this channel, which were like really random like gameplay videos, and like there's no like real rhyme or reason. Like it was just like some random Third Strike match clips I had saved. I think there was a video that was like I've gone through and like either privated or just deleted a bunch of the stuff because it's stupid. Like random like handheld gameplay footage from like fighting games, or like even like me playing through Perfect Dark levels with like weird challenges and stuff. It was really fucking random stuff. And also some video reviews that I've since deleted because they were very, very amateur, very bad, and they were just yikes. I still have them laying around, I think, if I really looked hard enough, but I don't want to ever look at those ever again. Like, I reviewed Pac-Man for the NES. Who the fuck in the year of our Lord 2012 wanted to look up a review of Pac-Man for the NES? I sure as fuck didn't. That was a stupid idea. I was young and dumb, but whatever. But yeah, it's, you know, and also, too, I didn't upload with much regularity. I just kind of uploaded when I felt like it, which, hey, I guess I kind of do that now, but I upload at a much faster rate than I did when I first started out, and this was just, like, a thing I had that was a little bit of a pastime, but wasn't my primary hobby, or one of my primary hobbies, because even now, I wouldn't call this my primary hobby, but it is definitely in the top 3. So, yeah, around that point, there's a summer, yeah, I want to say it was, like, my memory is blurry, and I'm really bad with years and remembering exactly when things happened, but I want to say it was the year between me graduating from high school and starting college. Maybe it was before that, I don't know, but basically, there is a summer where I played Persona 3. I found this Persona 3 thing, and I was like, huh, this is a pretty cool video game, and I liked it a lot. And then from there, I found out more about the greater franchise it belonged to, and I thought, this seems really up my alley. I like dumb, weird occult bullshit. And I played Shin Megami Tensei 1, fan translated. I think this might have been the days before the improvement patch. I can't quite remember. Actually, no, I think it was, I can't remember. But, played through SMT1. I liked it a lot, almost too much. I've played through that game too many times. I just kept going back to it. I loved it a lot. And I got more and more involved with the community. I kind of started to browse through different online, forums and the Megaten subreddit, and just different places that I could talk to other people who also liked this weird little niche JRPG series I found. And it was great. I loved it. I met a lot of friends, met a lot of cool people that I still talk to this day. It was really fun. It was I look back on those times really with good, fond memories. And then I decided, there's a lot of other friends I have, or just people I talk to, I meet, and, it's really hard to get them to play these games because they're weird. There's not a lot of good information about them online. There was clearly a community at that point, and a large amount of people who liked these games, but it was still fairly unknown, fairly niche, and I thought, why don't I make a weird actually, I planned on it being a 5-part beginner guide to get people to learn more about this series I like a lot, that I really feel like I know a decent amount about, at least enough to kind of tell people where they can kind of jump on board, and also explain some of the weird meta fiction stuff, like the timeline stuff, and all that sort of stuff, or just some general tips for how to play these games properly, because they're a little bit more on the difficult side, and a lot of people just really bounce off of them when they try them. And it was very well received. Popular to a point that I did not anticipate or expect. I still remember the day I got 100 subscribers, because I never really planned for that. That was kind of maybe a far out end goal for me making YouTube stuff, and I was like, holy shit, if I can get to 100, I've made it. That's more than I ever asked for. I actually should say the mission statement I made for making videos way, way back in the day, and this has been something I have stuck with for all, is it 8 now? Hold on, let me look. My channel is older than most people realize, because there's a lot of years where I just didn't do anything with it. Hold on, I'm going on my YouTube page right now. I had it open in a new tab, because of course I fucking did. Yeah, I joined YouTube April 21st, 2010. Didn't really start doing, anything that people actually gave a fuck about until 2013-ish, though. Maybe when did the beginner's guide get made? Hold on, let me look that up real quick. Yeah, 2013 I made the beginner's guide, so there's 3 years give or take there that really don't matter. But the real point where I made a like basically right at the start, I made this commitment where as long as I make something and like one person messages me or gets back to me and is like, hey, I really enjoyed this, I really liked this, and this made me happy, I was like, you know what, it's worth it then. It's worth taking that dive, and it's worth spending the time doing this dumb silly bullshit that I make. And like I kind of blew past that expectation really far. So there's kind of this little period between making this beginner's guide and making starting the podcast Cathedral of Shadows that ran for a couple years there with Katsu, where I just made some random SMT videos, talk about SMT stuff, doing random reviews as I played through the games, and stuff like that. And people liked them, and I met a lot of people, and I started to get more attention and more like views and subscribers than I ever really thought I would get, and I was kind of like, what the fuck do I do? Around this time, I was a real big podcast fan. I got into podcasts around the time that Retsu started Retsu Talk, and I was like, oh, maybe podcasts are cooler than I thought they were. And at that point, I just started to look around for any podcast I could find that was like even tangentially related to what I wanted to, my interests and hobbies and stuff. And I just loved listening to podcasts, and that is something that has stuck to me to this day. I fucking love podcasts. Cannot go through a day without at least listening to part of a podcast. I'm just always listening to something. I fucking love them. So I always wanted to do one. And my one thing was, I didn't have anyone else to do it with. Back then there weren't really too many other people who were like dedicated SMT YouTube people. Like there were a few people that played some SMT games, but no one that really like specialized in it like I did. I think maybe there was a couple, but like they weren't super active, or I don't know, there were reasons, but like I did look around, which I don't think I've ever really talked about before, but I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll do something someday if I can convince a friend or something or other. But I just kind of let that idea shelf itself, and I was like, that'll probably never happen, or at least won't happen for a while yet. And then sure enough, I get a message one day from someone from Mayanaka Forums, which was hold on, I actually don't even know if they still exist. I'm assuming not, but I've been surprised before. No, I don't correct that to Mayonnaise Forums. Mayanaka Midnight Forums, rather. Well, their My Anime List page is gone, and I can't find them. Yeah, I think that website's just dead. Anyways, they were a Persona 4 Arena specific fan forum and site that was for like competitive players of P4A that wanted to like, share information and stuff like that. And actually kind of ashamed the site is down, because I actually, if I recall, they had a lot of like really cool like information on there for people who wanted to learn that game at like a higher level, but one of the people involved with that website, who y'all know as Katsu, reached out to me, and they did a vlog series that I actually don't even know if those are still a thing. I'm doing a lot of looking up this video, more than I intended. Oh yeah, oh fuck, these things are still up, huh? But yeah, they invited me on for one. Oh, okay, maybe only some of them are still up, but whatever. They invited me on for one, and I think it was like a little bit after EVO. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And like I remember joining the call, and like Lord Knight was there, like one of the best American Persona 4 Arena players. Lord Knight was just like there, and I was like, oh, nice, because like they wanted a mix of people who like knew about like Mega 10 stuff and people who just like knew the game really well to like have like a conversation about like, I don't even remember what we talked about, but like we just had like a really cool 4-person conversation. And I remember because after we recorded that, Katsu and I just kept talking on Skype for like until like 1 a.m. And I think I don't even remember, I don't think either of us remember who pitched the idea first, but we're like, man, we don't really know each other, but we should fucking start a podcast. And then Cathedral of Shadows happened. I I think there's a lot of people who thought that like Katsu and I were friends for like a long time. Our relationship kind of started and ended with Cathedral of Shadows, and that's like I think there's some people and like rumors that started that were like, oh, Katsu and I had like a falling out, and it's like, no, we just kind of had a podcast together, you know, like we were friends, and like we liked each other and stuff, and like we, you know, talked about Megaton stuff together and enjoyed our time spent together. But like we just kind of really had the podcast that was like our main thing. And you know, we just kind of moved on with our lives after the fact. But like, yeah, I've seen some really weird information written about us out there that like it's kind of baffling. Like we still like talk on Twitter every now and again sometimes, you know, like it's not like there's any like bad blood or anything. Like I think one time I saw someone that said something like they thought that like Katsu like stole my ex-girlfriend or something. I don't it was really fucking weird, but like no, nothing like that happened. And you know, I get it. Like that happens whenever there's like you don't see people talking to each other as much who used to make a thing together. Like, you know, that happened with Game Grumps after like JonTron left, but you know, through the grapevine on that, it sounds like JonTron was kind of a piece of shit and everyone else wanted to disassociate from him, but hey, you know, like that happens with any split that happens like that for people who make online content stuff that have an audience. So, you know, I kind of expected that would happen at some point. But I just wanted to clear that up because every now and again I still see like weird things like that. And it's like, no, that's someone just made that up somewhere. But yeah, yeah, we made Cathedral of Shadows. It was awesome. I still really have fond memories of that podcast and making that podcast because, you know, well, hey, it was my first time making a podcast, really. And that has become a passion of mine and something that even I've been employed by people to do, which is cool, which is really cool. And I can't say that would have been possible without me making Cathedral of Shadows with Katsu. Of course, we both made it together. It's not like I made it. We both made it together. It just happened to be on my channel, which actually, fun story. That almost didn't happen because I was like, hey man, do you want to just like host this on your channel? And he was like, nah, let's put it on yours. And I was like, okay. Thanks Katsu for that, if you're listening. Because that ended up working out well for me. But yeah. But what I remember from the early days of Cathedral of Shadows is it was really topic oriented. There's a split like around episode, like basically what I do for podcasts. I'm doing this with my current podcast too. Is after we hit 25 episodes, it's like, you know, that's a lot for like a YouTube playlist to get through. Why don't we like split it up into seasons just so it's a little bit more manageable and easy for people to like kind of see different chunks of the show in. So that first season that we did, before we even had the idea to make them seasons, was very topic oriented. It was at a point a little bit after SMT4 had just come out, I remember. And I have fond memories of Katsu and I talking late into the night and being like, what the fuck are we going to do the next episode on? Because there was only so many things that you could talk about. I mean, there were a lot of games and there was a lot of things to talk about, from the gameplay to like the world design and the plot and the writing and all that, the music with each of those games. But we only had so much, and back then, Megaten news didn't come out at the speed it does now. And I think that's really the shift you start to see as we go from doing a podcast every now and again in Season 1 to slowly it became a weekly show for us, which we never expected. And I think there's even a few episodes where we skipped a week just because like we didn't feel like doing it or whatever. And people were like, well, what the fuck? Where's the Cathedral of Shadows this week? And Katsu and I would say, we never said this was weekly. It's just that there's so much news within either the fandom or just from Atlus releasing stuff that, like, we keep having more and more stuff to talk about, and we did not plan for that at all. So that was really interesting to see. And looking back, and I'm gonna... this is gonna sound weird and kind of hipsterish, and I don't mean it this way. But what I think you're seeing as Cathedral of Shadows progressed through time was you saw the beginning few episodes as kind of the dying vestiges of Megaten as a franchise, including Persona, being like this niche kind of underground thing, and you're seeing it move inches and inches more and more into the limelight. And with that, you're seeing a degree of you're definitely seeing more involvement with PR, like John Harden and like all of the stuff he did for like the Atlas USA side of things was awesome, and like they really started to engage with the fandom and stuff in really cool and fun and often hilarious ways, and that was really positive and cool to see a lot of the time. You're starting to also just get more like info out there leading up to the different games. To the point where, like, around the time Persona Q, I think, is the first one that I really think of when I think of this. You're starting to see, like, every week or every 2 weeks, like, they're always trying to crank out, like, a trailer just highlighting, like, a character or something that are, like, a minute long or, like, a minute 30 seconds long. Like, very short little chunks of information that can be endlessly speculated about for, like, 30 minutes at a time. And you're getting these little, like, quotes and nuggets of info that lead to being able to make more and more episodes and more stuff to like think about or like talk about and that sort of thing. Like you're starting to get a drip feed of stuff and content leading up to the actual release of the game. And that kind of changed how the show worked in a way that I wasn't against, and I don't think Katsu was either, but I think that I do know, at least I've talked to a few people who were like, yeah, I was on board for like the first parts of it, but once you started to be a little bit more newsy, I kind of lost interest just because I read about it elsewhere, or whatever. And that's cool, but like in contrast, that did really good for our numbers, and a lot of people kind of used us as like the Atlas News Roundup at the end of every week or whatever, which is cool too, and a lot of people enjoyed us for that, and giving the news while also giving our opinions and speculation and all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. But along with that, I also feel like this is around the time, looking back, where you're starting to see at least the beginning of the transition of Atlas being a company that makes some very out there games that tackle some very interesting and kind of risque subjects into more of a corporate entity that starts to take less risks, starts to play things a little more traditionally, and starts to, at least in my personal opinion, become a little bit less interesting than what they were before. Around this time is when I started to really get burnt out on the whole Cathedral of Shadows thing. There's a handful of reasons as to why, some involving community stuff that I'll get into a little bit later, and just like general interest in Mega 10 waning, but honestly the primary reason, which I believe I even state in I think I even say this actually in the final episode, or at least building up to the final episode when we announced we were ending, is honest to God, I just got kind of burnt out on talking about Mega 10 all the time. There's, even with all the news, there's really only so many conversations you can have about the one franchise, and like even we got a pretty impressive like 60 some episodes out of it, I want to say. So that was cool. But there's really only so much you can talk about before it's like, all right, this is starting to feel a little repetitive, and I feel like I'm kind of forcing it now a little bit, and I don't want to make something where it feel, after a while that starts to reflect on the quality of the work, and I don't want to make something, even if people like it now, that I feel like I have to force myself to make, if that makes sense, and later on I know this will get shitty, so we might as well end on a high note. If I recall, Katsu kind of wanted it to keep going, because, he was still feeling it, but I was like, man, if you want to do something that's cool, but I personally feel like I gotta tap out. And he was like, all right, I think we should end the show then too. And I said, okay. And he respected my decision to do that, and I'm really thankful for that, that he agreed to it and everything. And yep, we just decided to do a few more episodes, and we wrapped up. And then along with that, around the time that Cathedral of Shadows ended, I don't know if it technically started before we wrapped up or a little bit after, I did my second attempt at a Shin Megami Tensei Let's Play, which I had done on like another channel that's like up, that I think I renamed like Rosenbrand Archives or something like that, that I just don't even use anymore. That was like a group collaboration channel that kind of fell through because like everyone else lost interest. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll use it to put up streams. And then eventually I decided, I'm just gonna keep all my streams and other stuff on my main channel and just kind of let that other channel, sit out in the aether. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, I decided to do the SMT1 LP. Once again, that's a game I love a lot. I've played it so many times, and I figured this is something that I can make where I can show people why I love this game, even though, let's be real, that is a very hard game for many people to play through. You gotta be, like, kind of a specific type of person with a lot of patience to really get through that type of game or even find that sort of gameplay enjoyable. But there's a lot of cool story elements, and, a lot of people who like the more modern Mega 10 games, they want to see what the deal is with the older stuff and kind of where everything came from. So I thought this would be really cool if I made a playthrough of that. And I did something that I really wish more RPG Let's Players did, and I know a lot of people really, really like what I do when I Let's Play RPGs, is I edited it to hell and back so that you're not seeing a bunch of filler random encounters that are adding to the video length and really... I'm only showing you the really important shit that you'd want to see in video form. I'm cutting out a bunch of backtracking and stuff that, you get the idea of, and stuff that's kind of unnecessary filler and fluff type stuff. Which, I want to do that with all of my RPG Let's Plays going forward, obviously. But around the time I finished that up, I thought, well, next thing, I want to do another RPG Let's Play. Let's do Digital Devil Saga, which some of you may remember, that lasted like 3 videos, and then I kind of started to really feel the Mega 10 burnout at that point, and I was like, I can't do this. Once again, I don't want to force myself to make something I'm not really interested in truly making deep down in my heart. So I kind of just put all those videos to private, and I just said, hey, sorry everyone, I don't really, maybe some other time, but right now I don't want to do this. Maybe I'll do SMT2 in the future, but I need a Mega 10 break. And I went out and I did other stuff, and like I'm still making other stuff to this day. And I expected people to leave, and I think I even have like a vlog where I'm talking about that, where it's like, hey, this isn't gonna be as dedicated of a channel just to SMT anymore. And if you want to, if you want to head out, if you're not interested, that's cool, I understand. Personally speaking, there's been a bunch of different YouTube channels over the years that I was interested in, and then they kind of shifted focus, or they stopped making the type of stuff I liked from them, and I stopped watching. And, that's just kind of a normal part of enjoying any sort of media or any sort of creative output, If you don't really care for the type of stuff they're making, why even bother latching on? So I was very open with that, and I'm like, if you're just along for the SMT ride with me and you kind of want to get off the train now, that's cool. I don't really mind. And yeah, I still don't really mind that or anything. But there was some weird like territorial bits that I kind of felt, and also some like kind of possessiveness, which I'll get into. The first thing in terms of like the territorial stuff, it just kind of was eye-opening to me, because there were a lot of people who really wanted to do like SMT stuff on YouTube, or like even just talk about SMT, or like write about SMT, that were like asking my permission to like make podcasts or like do a bunch of things that, just like it felt like there was a certain segment of people who felt like they needed my permission, as if I were like some grand gatekeeper or like font of infinite wisdom that like could tell them, oh yes, that's a great idea, go ahead and go out there and beat them up, son, or like, oh no, this is terrible and you're not allowed. But it's like, man, we're all just fans of the same fucking thing. Like, you don't need my permission to do whatever. I don't fucking own SMT. I don't got a monopoly on this shit. Like, I just made some videos that people enjoyed, and I did it before some other people, but like there are people that did SMT stuff before I did. Like Rido Frost is a YouTuber who did a really cool SMT1 Let's Play before I made mine, and like I didn't feel the need to be like, oh, I can't touch SMT1. He already did a great playthrough of it, like we should all be allowed to do whatever creatively that we want to do. I mean, obviously without plagiarizing or doing whatever, but like, it was weird to have people seek me out to like get permission, because it just made me feel a little uncomfortable, but you know, whatever, I can deal with that. The possessiveness was a little weird though. I'm fine if people just like stop liking my stuff because I stop focusing on the things they're interested in. That's cool. But what got really weird were like the certain sense of entitlement and possessiveness. Yeah, like entitlement and possessiveness is what I'll describe it as, that some people got, where like they would message me really furious that I was not talking about SMT, and they're like, you better start fucking making SMT videos again. Like, what else do you think we're watching you for? And it's like, well, you don't have to, like, I don't owe you anything, man, and you don't owe me anything. Like, I'm gonna keep making stuff, and if you don't like it, that's cool, you know, but like, I'm not gonna just make stuff that I don't really feel the need to make. So that was a little awkward. And I know just through the grapevine, I've heard that there's other people that do like fandom specific videos and stuff, where as soon as they start to branch out even a little bit, like they get hardcore backlash and people get really angry about it, and like, you know, they really want people, like the creators they like, to really just do the one thing, and that's a little I don't know, I that idea is just kind of weird to me. You know, if I stop liking a thing that someone's making, I just kind of jump ship, and I don't really feel like they owe me anything. But you know, even then, I will say it was a minority of people. More people who I talked to that were kind of bummed about it were just kind of like, yeah, I'm sad you're not making SMT stuff anymore, but hey, whatever, you know, and we're cool about it. But like, you would get the handful every now and again that were like, why the fuck aren't you making the Beginner's Guide Part 5, you asshole? And it's like, whoa, I'm sorry, buddy. Those videos are bad anyways. But yeah, and also too, like, there's a lot of like weird, like, aggressive people who are like, oh, well, you abandoned your fan base and your channel shrunk as a result. And also too, that for one thing, that's a lie. Like, the videos I make now that aren't SMT related don't get as much views as the old SMT stuff did. But I never really shrunk. Actually, quite the contrary. Like, my channel has been growing at a steady rate basically since I started doing SMT stuff, all the way back when. What a lot of people don't realize, and part of this is just because, like, actually, like, I am educated for, like, online content creation and, like, search engine optimization and social media, you know, all that stuff. Like, I went to school for doing that stuff. It's very hard to actually shrink your online audience. It happens, but, like, even when it happens, it's usually not something you can't either recover from, or it's something that takes a very, very long time. But what you need to understand is that the old SMT stuff I made never went away. And new people find that stuff all the time. So, like, even if the newer stuff I make isn't as popular, people still jump on the Beginner's Guide. People still binge Cathedral of Shadows. People still check out all those old reviews I did. And they watch that stuff, and they like that stuff, and they engage with that stuff, and they share it around with their friends. And, you know, I see the flow of comments all the time when I check out the comments, like, oh yeah, this person just binged 10 Cathedral of Shadows episodes in like a week, and like they're commenting on all of them. Like, people keep finding that stuff over the course of time. So I never really shrunk. I just wanted to address that because I know there's some people who like want to use that against me, but like, honestly, even if like I shrunk, like, who cares? Like, doesn't matter. I don't really think it does. But yeah, honestly, that is one thing I do want to address, though. You shouldn't ever really expect regular content from me just by how I run things, because this is not my full-time job. This isn't even really my part-time job. This is a creative outlet for me. This is a passion project. This is a hobby. I do kind of what I feel like, and I know that is going to bother a lot of people because they, you know, a lot other YouTubers who take this way more seriously than I do have a formula, they have a schedule, they have better time management, and they get things out quicker. And they're more reliable than I am, and I'm cool with being unreliable just because I just like to make stuff and, you know, put it out on my own terms and make people happy for those who see it. But I know that pisses a lot of people off that I don't get things done on time, you know, in a timely manner, you know, like, I just kind of do things as they come to me or when I feel like I can. And that probably isn't ever going to change. I don't see any future where I'm big enough to really do this at a serious level, it would be nice, and, you know, I'd like to do that if I could, but, like, in reality, I think I'm kind of happy just leaving this as, like, a thing for fun, because that's how I get the most out of it. And if I got bigger, I'm sure I'd still love doing it, but, like, once again, I don't want to ever force myself to have to make something if I really don't want to, and there's a certain point when you're making any sort of online content where you kind of got to start forcing yourself to take this seriously as a job and put out the shit, even if you're not feeling 100%. And I don't really know if that's for me, just as a person. And that's okay, you know. But, you know, like, I make stuff like, I've been spamming people sub boxes with that Zelda Let's Play that Zach and I are doing, and it's not the most popular thing in the world, and I know that, because there are, let's be real, there is an infinite number of alternative people who are more entertaining than Zach and I you can go watch play through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But I have a regular 30 to 50 people who watch that stuff when I put it out, and I think that's cool, and, you know, they seem to enjoy it, and I have a lot of fun. I know Zach has a lot of fun recording that type of thing, and we just do it because it's fun, and that's kind of what I'm here for, you know? And, yeah, like, to be honest, like, I just have this written down. The money I get from YouTube, like, helps out, and, like, I get it every once in a while, but it's not something I get regularly, or honestly makes a super big difference in the type of stuff I make, or, like, how I decide to do things. Like for instance, I did some unboxing videos recently for, like, the DMC4, well, I guess an unboxing video technically only really for, the Dragon Ball Z, like, Blu-ray box set that was on Amazon for sale one day. And also, like, I did, like, an art book review that was kind of, I guess, kind of like an unboxing, kind of like a review for the DMC Graphic Arts art book. And those do really good numbers compared to the other stuff I make. Recently, I picked up the limited edition of the Zelda encyclopedia that Dark Horse put out, and I was like, maybe I should make a video on this. But then as I flipped through and I kind of tried to make a video, I was like, I don't really know if I got a lot to say about this book, actually. You know, like, I don't think this would be a very useful video, and one that I'm frankly not very interested in making. So I didn't force it, and I just decided, well, I guess I'm not going to make the video. But, you know, I know that probably would have done really good numbers and it would have been a smarter financial decision to make that video and just kind of force myself to do it, but I didn't feel like it. Yeah, I've gone on about that long enough, and probably more than anyone wants to hear about. But yeah, there is a point, though, that you may remember around the time Persona 5 was coming out, where I was like, I'm kind of feeling the spark coming back for making Megami Tensei stuff. Like, a little bit. I feel like something in my chest a little bit when the idea runs through my head of making more SMT and Persona stuff and doing all that and being able to talk about that series and really how I feel about it. Maybe I should do like a stream playthrough of Persona 5, because, you know, that Nocturne playthrough I did was really fun, and, like, you know, it was just a riot to do and all that. And maybe that would be really fucking fun. And then, like, right before the release of Persona 5, Atlus came out with those streaming restrictions where they were like, hey, fucker, you want to make YouTube videos about our game? Think again. And it's like, yeah, that feeling in my chest sure went out the window when I knew that the company who I want to express my love of their games for actively doesn't want people making good video content for their games past a certain point. And then what frustrated me even more beyond that was just the stupid restrictions that, like, almost no other companies have in terms of the video game industry, was their enforcement of it was very random, very sporadic. It didn't seem to matter the size of your channel, when you did it, what the video contained. Those rules seemed to be enforced seemingly at random. Some people got off scot-free, and, you know, more power to them. But there's a lot of people that just made, like, random videos, and they were, like, fucking the Atlus Mafia just broke their kneecaps immediately the next day. And it was like, I'm not gonna make videos on this fucking game because I don't fucking know if I'm gonna get a strike for this or not. And we're like a year and a half from I'm bad at time once again, but, you know, we're past that point, and once again, the past few months, I kind of felt that spark again. I felt that pounding in my bones, asking myself to make Megaten stuff again. and I think I'm gonna do it. Well, yeah, I know I'm gonna do it. Actually, I really want to. I was a little anxious because there's part of me that's like, kind of worried about doing it because then people are just gonna expect that I'm gonna be like a kind of dedicated SMT channel again. But like, nah. And like even a lot of my friends and more than a handful of people who like are my friends or just people I talk to and stuff were like, man, you've always just like your whole thing is like you've always just wanted to make videos that like you enjoy making and like you want to make other people happy and stuff, and like if you want to make Megaten stuff and do that, like do what your heart says. And it's like, yeah, you know what, yeah, actually. So yeah, I'm just gonna bookend this with that mission statement, where yeah, I want to make stuff that people enjoy. um and as long as I'm doing that, I want to make content that I also enjoy making too. And I think I'm ready to enjoy making Megaten stuff again. But once again, do not expect that to mean I'm gonna be going as ham as I was back in the day on just doing Megaten stuff, or even talking about it in as much detail and with as much fervor as I used to. And we're going to get into the why of that in this next part, which is kind of my feelings on online communities, fandom, not just specifically the Megaten fandom. This is definitely going to be a big part about it, though. But just kind of how I kind of disassociated myself from dedicated online fandoms over the years, and kind of my logic and reasoning behind it, and how I feel like I became a happier person because of it. So basically, I'm sure most of you watching know what fandom is, but let's get a working definition going. Fandom is a group of people who really, really like a thing, let's just for our purposes say like a piece of media, and participate in communities, whether online or offline, to share in their love and bond over their enjoyment of something. And, that can include like making art for it, making podcasts for it, in my case, making videos on it, writing about it in blogs or writing articles about it, making reviews for it, cosplaying, like all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff that, fandom does, and it's a good way to meet people. It's a good way to meet others with mutual and common interests, and, maybe that's a ground to feel a sense of belonging, or at least make some friends through. A lot of people use fandom for a lot of different things, and I'm going to shit talk fandom a lot in this video, but I also do not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That is the last thing I want to do. I do not want to deny, for me and for others, the amount of positive things that come out of online communities and fandom, because there's a hell of a lot of good that it can do. This isn't a fun topic to talk about necessarily, but a lot of fandoms, or a lot of people that participate in fandom, I know, have that background of feeling outcasted when they were growing up, or just feeling like they didn't really belong because of their interests, or because they just kind of had some, nerdier aspects to them that they didn't feel like they could share openly, without like getting bullied, or a lot of other stuff. And there's a lot of people, there's a large history of people from marginalized backgrounds who finding a sense of belonging and a sense of community within certain fandoms and stuff like that too, which is a really helpful thing when you feel like the world is out to get you and stuff like that too. And I have that a little bit too. When I was younger, I received a disability that I don't want to get too much into the specifics of, because like some weirdo like tried to dox me because I said too much about this one time. It was really fucking weird. But yeah, I had a disability that didn't allow me to be as physically active. Like, basically, I couldn't run for about a decade of my life without health complications happening, let's say. So, that really reduced the amount of, like, outside play and activity I could do as a kid. And, I couldn't really be involved with a lot of the sports and stuff I had up until that point, and that kind of sucked. But excuse me, as a result, I got more invested in, like, fiction and kind of more artsy and creative things that I could do indoors, and not a lot of people who I went to school with I could necessarily bond with over that. So online communities were really good for a young me who wanted to talk about stuff with other people, because a lot of my family wasn't really nerdy or like cared about video games or anime or whatever, and it was nice to have those people to talk to. So once again, I'm gonna shit talk a lot about fandom, but I do want to state that it is a good thing for many people, but I also do think that with the good comes the bad. And there are a lot of reasons, I think, for a lot of people to consider maybe backing off on participating in very dedicated fandoms. That's another, I guess, working definition or differentiation I want to make. Because you have, like, larger fandoms, like a video game fandom, where, like, you get people who are just video game enthusiasts that like to talk about games, but you get more dedicated communities within that, like the SMT fandom, which is what we're going to be talking about, that really only focuses on the one franchise. And those are honestly the types of communities I have found to not be to my liking overall. And also, in a lot of cases, I think do a lot of harm for those who long-term want to participate, unless, not always. I don't want to, make generalizations necessarily, but, like, I've talked to more than dozens of people at this point, I'm going to be real, who left the Megaten fandom or other I'm going to say, actually, Megaten fandoms and other fandoms because they got fed up with toxicity, elitist bullshit, general stupidity, and just got fed up, and they're like, yeah, I don't need this in my life anymore. And I kind of got to that point. I really did. And I kind of want to get into the details as to why. To some extent or another, some people have this in just very minor amounts, but I still think it is there to a degree in everyone. Everyone who gets involved or gets invested enough in something to outwardly go and seek out communities and, talk and engage in a in-depth level, I think there is always a degree of escapism there, which is something I used to deny a lot. Like, I don't fucking use this shit for escapism, but, like, I did. I think we all do. And that's normal. That's kind of what stories and entertainment is for. It gets our mind off of things. It helps us cope sometimes. You hear that a lot with really emotionally resonant stories and stuff, but I think no matter what, there's always that little bit of escapism there. But what I find is that in the more dedicated and the more specific of communities that you find through that, the more that escapism starts to poison the well in terms of long-term relationships. At best, the problem I ran into with a lot of people I met within the Megaten fandom, or just other fandoms I've been a part of. I used to be, when I was younger, I really liked the different Zelda fan sites, and, I was involved with that, and, different anime fan sites and all that. At best, you get people who the only thing that you really have in common and can bond over is the thing you both like. Maybe you like, maybe if you and a friend or I don't even want to say friend necessarily, but, like, say you join a Megaten fan site and you're bonding with someone else over SMT, chances are maybe you also like Final Fantasy or something. That's normal. But there starts to be a point, at least for me and some other people I've talked to, where it can be hard to find other things in terms of common ground to also talk about. And at least I know for me personally, when I want to be a long-term friend with someone, I want to have a lot of things in common with them, right? I want to be able to talk about a lot more than just one thing, because that gets a little boring after a while. There's a lot to life, and I want to be able to talk about more than just what our favorite demons are in SMT. I want to talk about what's going on in my life. I want to be able to talk about what's going on in their life with them. I want to hear about their friends and family. I want to talk about work. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about spirituality. I want to talk about culture. I want to talk about society, government. I want to be able to talk about, I want to be able to bond over other hobbies and activities we have outside of video games or media and stuff. Like, I really value that in a friendship, being able to talk about a lot with someone and really get to know someone. And, that's just speaking for me personally, but I do know some other people have run into this roadblock when they engage in fan communities, and that kind of is a point of frustration too, so I thought it was worth bringing up. So, yeah, like, at best, maybe there's a level of boredom there after a while where I don't want to just talk about this one thing. Um, because also along with that too, one thing you will find with fandom is that conversations get repetitive. Um, I don't think we could ever go a month on the Mega 10 subreddit without the SMT versus Persona thing coming up. And like after about the third time, who really gives a shit anymore? Um it gets really boring and repetitive to talk about, and a lot of the time those conversations get to a point where there's a level of an emotional involvement that I no longer had much interest in putting in at a personal level. Specifically as I got older, as I went through college, as I became more of a responsible adult and had more responsibilities on my plate and things I needed to tend to in my life, and things I had to tend to in other people's lives even. Um, I found that I couldn't muster up the energy to care that much about what other people like in video games in terms of like, oh, you like Persona more than SMT, and like even then, like I was never like, I'm gonna be real. If you care so much about what other people like in video games that you like actively like antagonize them because they like a different game more than you do, you gotta grow up a bit. Like that's just not healthy. That's kind of dumb. Like I always thought the SMT versus Persona thing is stupid. Let people just fucking play the games they like. Who gives a shit? Don't be a stupid asshole about it. Just let people play what they like, and like don't be an asshole. It's dumb. It doesn't accomplish anything. You just look like you're a fucking 11-year-old arguing on the playground if PS2 or Xbox is better. Who gives a shit? It's dumb. Um, as you can see, there's a lot of dumb toxicity in that fan base that I got really fed up with really fast. But yeah, you just start to see, like, once again, there's only so many things you can really talk about, and it started to get a little boring after a while. And you start to see the same things come up. And also too, along with that, because of the toxicity, and because things get repetitive, and just the nature of human interest, you see that in general, people really often stick to dedicated communities like that for so long. Like you always have the handful of regulars, but people come and go, and a lot of those people move on to different things that they, have interest in. I saw a bunch of people on Twitter who, after Devilman Crybaby came out, and like, hey, even I got super invested in Devilman Crybaby. Like for a few months, like they were hardcore, really into Devilman stuff. And that was like all they ever talked about. And then eventually it's like, okay, we talked enough about Devilman, let's move on. But with dedicated communities, you don't really get that. So what you see is a lot of the people move on for whatever reason, either because they get sick of the toxicity, or they just get bored, or, in some cases, like, a little bit of everything, all of the above for me, but like, you just kind of get a little bit older, and it's more of a time commitment and emotional commitment than you can really, really care to put in. And over the years, I've had a lot of older Megami Tensei fans who just got fed up and kind of left the public online communities, reach out to me just to talk and like kind of chill, shoot the shit for a while. And old Mega 10 communities actually sound really fucking dope, because it honestly sounds like they kind of had the Earthbound thing going on, where like, I mean, back in the day, you just didn't have many RPGs that were set in like the modern day, and that was kind of cool, and there's all this like weird demon, like occult shit going on, and it was kind of, it had some like monster collection systems going on, which, not all RPGs have. And it was just like, this nice little cozy community. But as it grew, and, as it got, more and more of a following and dedicated sites and stuff, you start to get the people who get really protective, elitist, and defensive about it, and like start to gatekeep and start to care way too much about what games can be considered good and what games can be are stupid trash or whatever. And a lot of people back in the day that like really were like, hell yeah, I love these Persona games, even just for like the PS1. As you start to see like a divide as like mainline games start to come out, and games get fan translated and all that stuff. As all that starts to happen, you see the shift where it starts to get a little a little anal about your opinions, and naturally people jump ship from that because they don't want to deal with that bullshit. They're just here to have fun and talk about games they like, and that's natural. So I've just that's something that I've really valued talking to a lot of older Mega 10 fans with who have been in this shit and have like been able to see this whole thing from like a perspective I can't even imagine. But yeah, like even then, so moving on, I talked at best, it gets a little boring. At worst, it gets very, very toxic, very shitty. It stops being about like enjoying something and it becomes about enjoying something in the right way, which is more effort than I really care about putting in, like I said. But also, too, I've met a lot of people who, God bless them, but, they get involved with the fandom stuff, and they very clearly are leaning into that escapism, and all that they can talk about to a almost unhealthy, obsessive degree is the thing that they are in the fandom for. And if you even so much as put a hairline crack in that illusion that that's, the only thing worth talking about, they can get very angry very fast. There were multiple occasions with different people that I'd just like meet and have like a conversation or two with where it would get awkward because the only thing we'd be able to talk about is Megami Tensei stuff. And if you even so much as try to like bring in like kind of like the real world into like a discussion, like talk about like work or school or whatever, they would get very frustrated, and it was very clear that they were using their participation in online communities such as this as an escape. And I feel really bad because I actually feel for a lot of the people who I've met that are like this, because it's very clear the more you talk to them, they don't come from the greatest of places usually. A lot of the times they've had hard lives, or maybe they've hit a rough patch on the road of life, or, they're just in a bad position, or, a bad household, whatever. And it really sucks, and, you feel bad to see that type of thing, because it's sad. It's sad. It's genuinely sad. But on the flip side of the coin, you also do start to meet people. And I used to think these are the edge cases, and it breaks my heart to say that the more I went on, the more I started to meet people like this that, honest to God, have nothing else going on in their life outside of getting angry on the internet, being a piece of shit on the internet, who like all they can talk about is Megami Tensei. And this isn't even just a Mega 10 thing, once again. This is just people who dodge responsibilities, just don't have any interest in the outside world. All they want to do is be a little goober shit online about, if Persona or SMT is better, and that is very clearly the only thing going on in their life. And I just do not have much interest in talking to someone like that, or really participating in communities where those people are around, if we're being honest. And I guess that kind of brings me to my next point is, I got fed up with the general fandom expectation that the number one bonding thing that we're all here for is that we all have the shared love of this video game. And for a lot of people, that takes precedent over all other differences, to a staggering degree. And I know this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people that have listened thus far, but yeah, I don't care if we like the same video games. As soon as you like start to be a creep to our female friends, or like start to be transphobic or sexist or racist or whatever, like, I don't give a shit that we like the same fucking video games. You can go fuck yourself. And a lot of fandoms, they don't like that. A lot of people don't like drawing the line. I don't care that so-and-so is a piece of shit. They make a lot of cool videos that I like, so I'll keep, talking to them and liking them or whatever. I don't care that this person is kind of a creep towards women because he draws really cool fan art, and it's like, no. The older I get, the more I got fed up with that, and frankly, I find that idea childish, irresponsible, and frankly kind of pathetic. Yeah, I can't do that. Um, and honestly, what you end up seeing a lot is you see a lot of online public fan communities that are very shitty places unless there is a moderator team that does their job really goddamn well. And those are few and far between, sadly. So a lot of online fan communities just become shitholes where people are very argumentative, very elitist, very douchey, um, just very anal about the most random of things. And the people who are tolerant of that, and the people who think that type of atmosphere is bad, genuinely don't last very long before they just kind of jump ship. Maybe they make a private group of friends that from that community of other people who got fed up, and they make like a private little circle of friends, or I don't know. I've seen this a lot where like a lot of public facing online communities, a lot of people jump in if only to meet some other people, and then they just kind of leave after they find some friends. I know I do that a lot. I know a lot of other people do that, just because we don't want to deal with the bullshit. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with fandoms, where I think they're cool for meeting other cool people, but I think that there's a lot of really unhealthy obsession and frankly a cult-like atmosphere to some degree where you're only really allowed to have a certain set of opinions before people just really start to get really angry. I mean, even if you have the accepted quote-unquote opinions, it always breaks out into these factions where people get really argumentative and territorial and like shitty about things anyways. And it's stupid. It leads to a bunch of unnecessary drama and negative emotional investment into something that we're all supposed to be enjoying, but are still gonna act like assholes and get really mad about for some reason. It seems very counterintuitive after a while, and yeah, I kind of jumped ship. But even just the unhealthy amount of degree to which people feel the need to, I guess, play amateur PR department, for the companies that put out like the series and stuff that they really really enjoy. To I guess for an example, to pick on a group that isn't the Megaton fandom, I've been wanting to get into the Falcom RPGs for a while now, just because I hear great things. Everyone I know seems to really like them, and at varying degrees, of course. But I hear almost nothing but positive things about them. But I'm not gonna lie, the cult-like atmosphere around their fan base is a little off-putting to me. People just get very over-enthusiastic about promoting those games to a point that kind of makes me uncomfortable and shake my head a little bit. Like, I feel like I can't reference, like, on Twitter, like, oh yeah, I think maybe I might give, like, a Falcom, like, RPG a chance without, like, people who, like, don't even follow me but are, like, name searching for Falcom shit, like, hopping into my mentions like they're a goddamn, like, group of 10 Jehovah's Witnesses that are, like, knocking on my front door with Trails in the Sky pamphlets in their hands. It's so fucking weird, and, like, I can't imagine like having that much of an over enthusiastic love for any company like that. It frankly kind of makes me uncomfortable, and something that, I think there are people who do find that fulfilling, but I do think it is important to remember they don't know who you are, nor do they give a fuck about you back. They care about your money, and that's all you really are to them. Maybe they make stuff that you like, but that is a one-sided relationship, and I think that there's a lot of people in that enthusiast sphere who don't understand that. And that's depressing to me. And I want to clear this up because I don't want people to misunderstand me. I don't want the takeaway of this discussion to be, don't express your passion and the love for the media and fiction that you consume. Fuck that. Express your love for it all the way. It's important to celebrate the stories that resonate with us. It's important to be able to share things that we really love with other people and be able to find people to talk about our favorite things with. That's awesome. That's a really positive, great experience that makes people happy. But what I am fighting against is the idea of people becoming such a fanatic that they feel the need to go to bat for a creator or entity or company or whatever that puts out their favorite thing, whenever they see that creator or entity or whatever getting criticized. And I saw that a lot in the Megaten fandom. nobody or like, nothing in this world is flawless. There's always room for criticism. There's always room for improvement. That goes for people, that goes for corporations, that goes with teams, that goes with anything in this world. Individual pieces of art, you know? We all have room to grow and improve and be better. And I think when I see people get to the point where they are so defensive, to the point where they basically act in practice like they're a marketing pawn, I think that's really sad. And I think the funniest thing to me is the Megaton community. A lot of people have this weird superiority complex where they're like, oh, well, I play smart, intellectual JRPGs that have real themes and are so insightful and have deep meanings behind them, and like all that shit or whatever. But in reality, like actual room for like critical discourse and like discussion is very stifled and very limited before people get like unreasonably upset and like super defensive, kind of like how I was talking about. And I think a good situation that illustrates this is a few months back, the Forum Reset Era made this forum thread that was just like, here's what a bunch of our users would like to see changed for Persona 6. And I looked through it and I was like, yeah, I like some of these, I dislike some of these changes, but you know, whatever. And I kind of moved on with my life and I was like, yep, that was a thing. But a bunch of dedicated Mega 10 communities got so fucking pissed about this and had like a day-long bitch fest where they just got so angry about this, like, this list that doesn't matter and will change nothing probably because it's from some random fucking forum. But just like, it just made me so shocked because I was like, I'm sorry, did we all suddenly drink the Kool-Aid? Like, are we so insecure and so sensitive to any criticism that like we have to like get this pissy about this? Like, it was just so pathetic. And that's not what I signed up for, man. That's just not what I signed up for. Like, I can leave that behind. And not gonna lie, looking back, that level of toxicity that was just in that community, I think did start to kind of creep into Cathedral of Shadows more than I was comfortable for. And I think maybe a little bit, not as much as me being burnt out, but a little bit, I think that did impact my energy for continuing the show, in terms of me just not being as enthusiastic about making more episodes to a degree. So I do want to clarify that it wasn't, I don't think that's necessarily Katsu. I'm sure Katsu and I said dumb things that maybe, you know, we regret or whatever, but overall I think we were fine. But just the people around the show, to varying degrees, I think it started to get a hold of them a little bit, and it started to impact it in various ways. The one anecdote I'll leave you with, that this is just a situation that stuck with me throughout the years, is about a guest. And I do want to clarify, the vast majority of guests we had on Cathedral of Shadows are fantastic people, just really great, really smart, really creative people who, you know, did wonderful things, do wonderful things to this day, and are just very lovely people. But once or twice there was kind of like, looking back, maybe we wouldn't have them on again. But the one that always stuck with me, and I feel comfortable talking about this because I don't think he does anything on the internet anymore, or at least doesn't publicly do it. The guy who was doing that Devil Summoner PSP fan translation, I reached out to him, and you know, we talked about like doing a show and all that, and you know, he was down for it or whatever, and you know, we were just kind of shooting the shit and scheduling. And I kind of, you know, did what I did with every guest that we had on, where it's like, all right, here's kind of how our show works. Here's what we talk about. And then we answer some emails at the end, and, you know, it's fun, it's chill and whatever. But like, I remember because at the end of the first conversation we had, he was like, I have a question. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, how much do you and your co-host know about Megami Tensei? And I was like, I mean, we play a lot of the games and we know enough to have a podcast about it. And he was like, okay. And then like he agreed to do the show or whatever. And I went to Katsu like right after that, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that was about. And we did some digging. And I don't remember how we found this out. I think Katsu found this. I can't remember. But like, apparently he had gone on the SMT General board on 4chan and like asked about us. And a bunch of people were like, oh, those guys don't really know about SMT. They're just, like, pretenders. They're casuals or whatever. And like he was like super skeptical of us, and was like concerned that we were like some like fake Mega 10 podcast that like weren't truly dedicated enough. And it was like, I just think that's the most hilarious thing, and like that's just so fucking funny to me. But it's stuff like that that makes you slowly over time kind of not want to do it anymore, you know? Like, that was a little ridiculous. Even actually, since I'm preparing to do that Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 1 Let's Play, which I'm really excited about, I need to... I'm going to talk about this later, but I need to take some time to actually really learn that game like I did for SMT1 and be able to go through it efficiently so that it's a really good quality Let's Play. But even when I was looking up stuff for that, I noticed that the translator, who I also had on the show for that, blocked me on Twitter, and I was like, huh. Because, you know, I over time I just kind of unfollowed a lot of the Mega 10 people after I stopped doing Mega 10 stuff that I used to follow on Twitter, just because, you know, we didn't really talk much outside of that, you know, and like, I don't know, there just wasn't a lot of conversations going on, so it's like, yeah, you know, we just kind of unfollowed each other, no hard feelings sort of thing. And I kind of thought that was what that was with that guy. So I was like, huh, I wonder why he blocked me. And I just kind of referenced it to someone who was a little bit more in the know. And apparently, like, he's just like a hardcore Trump supporter dude who, like, defends ICE and shit. And I was like, oh yeah, he probably really doesn't like me. Just based off of what my Twitter is like. But yeah, even then, like, if there's an alternate timeline where if I really wanted to take the Cathedral of Shadows thing seriously, and I really wanted to, I guess, be in service to the fandom, I would have put that aside to still be his acquaintance so we could still talk about the fan translation work that he does. But, like, you know, I don't know, just as a person, I don't really feel the need to look past someone's support of human right violations to be able to talk about video games with them for the internet. I think that's a little ridiculous. But for a lot of people, you know, they don't care. And hey, whatever, I guess. That's just how people are. I guess I'm powerless to change that, but just from a personal level, I can't bring myself to be like that. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the Mega 10 fandom, and just fandom in general. I think that they're a great and wonderful, powerful tool for letting people meet each other, but I think long-term they can be very negative and very draining experiences, and I think you're better off meeting some cool friends that you can bond with over other things from that, and really develop some long-lasting relationships for, and not just base your relationship with other people on a shared love of one thing, because I think that's a little unstable overall. And I think you'll find a lot more fulfillment, just personally speaking from my experience, kind of looking for people that you mesh with on a deeper level as well. That's at least how I've been feeling the past year or so now. Whew. So yeah, let's shift gears here, because that was very scathing, very negative, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now who are like, well, that was long-winded and very, very much a downer, and he really doesn't sound like he wants to keep making Mega 10 content, so what's the deal? And that's fair, that's fair. But yeah, let's transition on to something a little more positive. Because I do want to make Mega 10 content again. I do feel that desire to talk about something that I really sincerely, honest to God, love. Deep down in my heart, I fucking love Megami Tensei. I love sharing my opinions and talking about it. I really, really love making videos on it. And after a lot of, a couple years there of having a lot of stuff on my shoulders weighing me down and extinguishing that spark to really make content for it, I want to make those videos again, because they were fun to make. They were fun to make then, they're going to be fun to make in the future, and sometimes you can't let all the bullshit around that get you down. I want to be able to talk about these games while also maintaining a healthy distance from them. I also want to be able to talk about these games while also still being able to make video content on other things that I'm interested in. I want to maintain that nice variety, that nice spicy balance, because that's what keeps me motivated and keeps me coming back to make these videos that I love making, and I know at least a handful of people love watching. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this as a pastime. So, yeah. I need to. I think I said already. I need to practice. I need to take some time to really learn the ins and outs of Kyoyaku Megami Tensei. I've only really had like 1.5 playthroughs of it, but I really like that game, and it's short, so you know it's gonna be short and sweet and something to get me back into the swing of things. I'm back. I never left really, but I'm back making Megaton stuff. I guess I'm back. Yeah. It feels really good to say that, honest to God, because you know what? Sometimes you just gotta let the assholes be assholes and just let them roll past you. I want to make cool Mega 10 videos for the people who aren't assholes, because there's a lot of those people out there, and I'm sure that they want to watch cool Mega 10 videos from me. So yeah, that's kind of what's keeping me motivated here, and I'm excited to get back into the swing of things, like I said. That being said, I know I probably pissed off a lot of people with this video for a multitude of reasons, and that's fair. I don't really care. What I will say is, unlike a lot of YouTubers, I care more about the quality of the community around this channel more than I do the quantity. I don't care about playing the numbers game, because if the community around the channel is kind of a shit show, that just makes me unmotivated as hell to do anything, you know? I want to make stuff for cool people, not raging assholes. I regularly go through my Creator Studio comments feed and just ban people who are being assholes to people, because I don't need them. Like, I don't care if they're here. And that's not a normal thing. That is not standard. And part of that is just because, you know, you get big enough to a point where there's so many comments coming in that you just can't go through and take a look at all of them, obviously. But so far I'm not quite at that point yet. I probably will be sooner rather than later, but, you know, which is sad. But, yeah, like, I take no qualms with just alienating people who feel like being shitty in my comment sections. And that isn't normal, and I've gotten messages every now and again from people who are like, I can't comment on your YouTube videos anymore, or what the fuck's the deal, or like, you know, are just shocked, and I go, well, I recognize your screen name as the guy who, like, called someone else autistic because they didn't like Persona 3, and, like, I'm fucking sorry, you don't belong here, like, I don't need you around, and alienating otherwise cool people that took time out of their day to watch my stuff and engage with it. And as the classic saying goes, don't read the comments, which I kind of want to fight back against, because even with YouTube comments, which are famous for being just so bad and terrible, and a lot of people just say don't even bother with them, I want to fight back against that a little bit, because no shit, they're bad. Nobody moderates them. Nobody takes the time out of their day to actually try to clean them up, you know? Like, of course they're going to be awful. So I want to fight back against that a little bit and try to do my part in curbing that. And one last thing I want to touch on before I wrap this up is just on basic human sociology. But, like, say you're at a party with a bunch of people, and then 3 assholes come in, just, you know, are chatting up a storm and being douchebags. The natural human reaction isn't for the rest of the group of people who are, like, decent human beings to, like, just keep talking and ignore them. It's usually to leave the fucking party or relocate, whether that means going to another party or just hanging out in private as a group of friends. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of how fandoms work. That's kind of how comment sections work, or any online community. A lot of the times people get fed up and they just kind of keep to themselves, which sucks, but that's just kind of how it is. And one thing I'm kind of kicking myself for, and I wish I realized sooner rather than later, is that in reality, it's actually a very small percentage of the people who actually buy these games that actually engage in online communities and fandoms for them. Whatever game series you want to talk about, I don't care which one, the actual online fan community for that game is only a very small segment of the actual overall player base. And even if those segments in particular are very loud and they can't maintain that healthy distance away from the thing that they love, that doesn't mean the other segments stop existing. There's a bunch of awesome people out there who really love Megami Tensei as much as I do, and those are the people who I'm hoping to entertain with the videos I make. I don't want to be the SMT guy, and deep down I never really did. I just want to make the things that I love making, and along the way I hope I make some people happy. That's what I'm here for. But to be fair, maybe that's not necessarily what you're here for, and that's cool. You know, that's completely understandable. In that case, I honest to God recommend you check out the plethora of Megaten dedicated channels on YouTube right now. There's a lot of them, and I think they'll serve you better than I ever could. Just because I want to keep that variety. I just want to make the things that I want to truly make deep down, and that's not always going to be Megaten stuff. But that's one of the beautiful things about YouTube, right? You just have so many options available to you that eventually you're going to really find the thing that you latch onto. Yeah, that kind of wraps up the Megaten part of this update video. This disgustingly long update video. Oh god, I cannot wait to edit this. Yeah, I just want to give a quick life update and also to announce that I'm going to be taking a month or two kind of break. You're probably still going to see videos from me here and there, but like, truthfully, I just started my new job. And this is the first time that I've technically worked like a traditional 40-hour full-time office job. The other job that I had before this that I got out of school was kind of formatted weirdly, and like I had a lot of time where I was just expected to work from home or otherwise like just kind of be on call where I wasn't necessarily working, but like I had to be available. So even though it was technically a full-time position, it left me with a lot more free time to like make videos and edit them and stuff. So, you know, I'm just gonna get used to the 8-hour workday and readjusting to that. And I know that sounds stressful, like, oh no, you have less free time, but honestly, I think I'm happier than I ever have been in recent memory, just because my work-life balance is so much better now, because when I'm clocked out for the day, I'm clocked out for the day, and they're very strict about that. They were very open to me about that, which I'm thankful about, because a lot of other like social media, online content positions, they're really shitty about that, and they expect you to put in some extra hours, and you're not always necessarily paid for that, which, you know, sucks. It sucks a lot, but this place has a little bit better policies about that than a lot of other places, so I'm really thankful about that, and it's done a lot for my mental health, so that's been great. But honestly, the only goal I really have at the moment in my life is moving out. I've lived with my folks for what I feel is far too long. You know, age 25, that isn't bad, and you know, I saved a lot of money doing that, so I at least am happy about that, but this house has just so many bad memories of like abuse and tragedy for me, and even though my mental health is a lot better these days, and I'm not as depressed or anxious as I used to be, and hey, I kind of forgot to talk about it, but even a lot of that SMT1 LP I did, I feel like it kind of comes across that I'm working through some shit, and that was around the time I was going through therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff, and I think it kind of shows. But yeah, yeah, no, I just need to move out of this house. There's just so many times where it just brings back bad memories, and I don't need that in my life. But yeah, I'm just doing so much better than I used to be. And I'm really proud of myself, because looking at my history and my background and where I come from, there's a lot of really shitty conditions that should have set me up for failure, that I worked past, and I'm really happy with myself about that. And I said this on Twitter, I historically haven't been able to say that about a lot of my life, about me being happy with who I am and kind of what I've done, or, you know, where I'm at. But I am right now. I honest to God really am right now. And that feels great to finally be able to say that. It feels awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the rest of life has to offer. But before that, I need to, you know, get used to the new office gig and move out. So yeah, I'll be back, and you'll still see stuff from me, and I'm sure I'll stream every now and again, and I'll do stuff with that. Oh, actually, I'm gonna start blogging more, which I know I feel like I say every fucking once in a while, but yeah, Rosin.zone, go check it out. I'm gonna start blogging about books and comics and manga. So instead of seeing and Gunpla, in addition to having YouTube videos about it. So instead of seeing like those old like audio only reviews like you used to see from me, I'm just gonna blog about stuff now if I really feel like talking about it. So I don't have much interest for doing those mini audio only reviews anymore. I would rather express myself through writing and kind of do that, because that's another creative outlet that I kind of want to better myself in and really put myself to the test. So yeah. I hope I didn't piss you off. I'm very sorry if I did with this video. I'm excited, man. I'm fucking excited. I'm ready to go. I can't wait to make more stuff for all of you to enjoy. But yeah, I'm just gonna chill the fuck out for a bit now. My throat hurts. I've been talking for a very long time. Have a good one. I fucking love ya.